Okay, this is our final video on converting units. So we're looking at the meaning of prefixes such as milli, centi, kilo, and we're going to look at also prefixes for very small and very large units of measurement. So the prefixes that we're going to look at are nano, micro, mega, giga, and tera as well. So looking at some small units, you all know centi. Cent doesn't mean 100, it actually means, centi means 1/100th. So a centimetre is 1/100th of a metre. But we do know that there are 100 centimetres in a metre. So a centi is a small unit, not a large one. Milli, for example, millimetre, millilitre, milligram. So a millimetre is 1/1000th of a metre. A milligram is 1/1000th of a gram. A milliliter is 1/1000th of a litre. So 1,000 millimetres is a metre. 1,000 milligrams is a gram. 1,000 mils is a litre. Okay? But 1 milliliter is 1/1000th. Alright? 1 millimetre is 1/1000th of the metre. So milli means 1/1000th. Now powers, we've been looking at powers in scientific notation. 10 to the minus 2 is 1 over. Isn't 10 to the minus 2 1 over 10 squared? So it's 1/100th. Can you see that? 10 to the minus 3 is 1 over 10 cubed, which is 1/1000th. Another measurement, small measurement, is micro. You may or may not have seen is a micro. So you can have micrometer. The main one you might see is like in medicine or stuff like that, is a microliter. So the symbol for micro is that. The symbol for milli is small m. The symbol for centi is c. So the symbol for micro is that letter there. So a micro is 1/1,000,000th, and it's 10 to the minus 6, or 1 over 10 to the power of 6. So a micrometer is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So 1,000,000 micrometers is 1 meter. That's the symbol there for microliter. Okay? You know how you've got mils? They're milliliters. So 1,000th of a mil is a micro. So girls, if you look from milli to micro, the change in power is 10 to the 3. So a micrometer is 1,000 times smaller than a millimeter. Can you see that's 10 to the 6, that's 10 to the 3? But it's 1 over 10 to the 3, 1 over 10 to the 6. Or the millimetre is 10 to the minus 3, the micrometre is 10 to the minus 6. So there's a change in power of 10 to the 3 from millimetre to micrometre. Alright? So a micrometre is 1,000 times smaller than a millimetre. So you know how small a millimetre is, a millimetre on your ruler. A micrometre is 1,000, so here's a little millimetre on your ruler like that. That space in there, a micrometre is 1,000th of that. So it's very small. Okay? Then we've got nanometers. Now, when we talk about nano, it's 10 to the minus 9 or 1 over 10 to the 9. We're looking at the sizes of cells. Okay? So bacteria and things like that. And cells. Really, really small. So they're 1,000 millionth of a metre. They're actually 1,000,000 times smaller than a millimetre. So just think you can fit 1,000,000 spaces inside a millimetre. That's how small a nanometre is. It's 1,000,000 times smaller than a millimetre. Why am I saying 1,000,000 times smaller than a millimetre? Because millimetre is 10 to the minus 3, nanometre is 10 to the minus 6. There's a change of power of 6 between them. Okay, so nanometers are really small. Okay, large units, kilo. Girls, you know a kilogram is 1,000, so kilo means 1,000. It's 10 to the power of 3. Now, I'm going to use bits. You know, bits and bytes in data storage. So a kilobit is 1,000 bit. You're used to seeing a kilogram is how many grams, girls? 1,000 grams. Or a kilometre is 1,000 metres. Alright? So mega. Mega sounds big. megamite. So kilo is a big unit. Mega is a big unit. It sounds big. 10 to the power of 6. 1 megabit. Girls, I'm not talking megabytes here. I'm talking megabits. Is 1 million bits. Do you know what a bit is? Who does computing? There are 8 bits in every byte. And I'm not talking food. I'm talking, you know, a byte in data storage. 8 bits make 1 byte. And then you've got bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes. Okay? Most of your computers, don't they have terabyte storage now as opposed to gigabyte storage? They do. You can get the terabyte external hard drive. 1 terabyte, you often get a minimum of 1 terabyte. Shh, girls. Mega. A megabit is a million bits. What about if I said 1, we don't call them megagrams, but a megaliter. How much is a megaliter? 1 million litres. 1 million litres. But we've got another unit we use instead of, what's the next unit up from litres? Kilolitres, and then the next unit would be megalitres. So a megaliter, tell me how many kilolitres it is. Have a guess. 1,000. See, girls, because we go from litres to kilolitres to megalitres. And there's a 10 to the power of 3 difference between them. See, kilo, mega, and that's actually mega, not mego, giga. So we've got kilo, mega, giga, tera. So giga is 10 to the power of 9, gigabits or gigabytes. Tera is 10 to the power of 12, terabytes. So a terabyte is 1,000 times bigger than a gigabyte. It's actually 1,024. But that's why I'm doing bits. Okay, girls, what's the symbol for bytes? Capital B. The symbol for bits, girls, we're going to look at the difference between bytes and bits. The symbol for bytes is capital B. The symbol for bits is small b. There are 8 bits that make 1 byte. Okay? 8 bits make 1 byte. So little b for bits, capital B for bytes. Sounds right, doesn't it? A byte is bigger than a bit. All right? So the symbol for kilobytes is small k, big B. What about megabytes? What's the symbol for mega, girls? Is it small m or big M? Big M, big B. Gigabytes, capital G, capital B, and terabytes, capital T, capital B. So these are the symbols. Kilobytes, megabytes, capital M. Not microbytes, not the little or the millibytes. Milli is little m. Okay? Yeah, you can have kilobits. That's 1,000 bits. See, the word kilo means 1,000. So if I say kilometre, kilo means 1,000. That's 1,000 metres. Kilolitres, that's 1,000. Kilo means 1,000. Kilolitres is 1,000 litres. In computing, is made up of zeros and ones. Off is a 0, 1 is on. So there are always 2 choices, a 0 and a 1. All right? So that's 2 choices. See, so, girls, so if you see 40 kilobytes, you can see it written as 40K, 40 little k, or 40 big K, big B. They're all the same. Now, girls, there's a different conversion between bytes. Bytes doesn't follow metric units, bytes. Bytes is binary code, like why is it called binary code, zeros and ones? There are 2 choices. You can have a 0 or a 1 in computing, that's it. So there are 2 choices. So tell me, girls, what 2 to the power of 10 is. Can you do it on your calculator? 2 to the power of 10. 2, y to the power of x, 10 equals. Anyone? No, 2 to the power of 10. What does it? There you go. So that's where the unit of conversion, it's not 1,000 kilobytes is a megabyte. It's actually 1,024 kilobytes is a megabyte. So when you're talking bytes, that's based on powers of 2, and the highest power we go is 2 to the power of 10. So 1,024 kilobytes is a megabyte. It's close to 1,000, but it's not 1,000, all right? 1,000, so girls, isn't megabyte. If you look at units, we got kilobyte, megabyte, what's next? Gigabyte, terabyte. You know that from computing, right? Your storage. So 1,024 kilobytes makes a megabyte. 1,024 megabytes makes a gigabyte. 1,024 gigabytes makes a terabyte. It's not exactly 1,000. Why is it not exactly 1,000? Because computing works on base 2. Why? Because everything in computing, programming, whatever, you've either got on or off, 0 or 1. So 2 to the power of 10 gives you this 1,024. Okay? So here's an example. Girls, convert 2,340 gigabytes to terabytes. Girls, which one's bigger? Giga or tera? Tera. It sounds like a dinosaur, doesn't it? Tera or something. Right. So, girls, small to big units, multiply or divide. 1,024 gigabytes equals 1 terabyte. So how many terabytes do you have? 2,340 divided by what? 1,024 gigabytes makes 1 terabyte. So you divide it by 1,024 and you get approximately 2.285 terabytes. Okay, convert megabytes to kilobytes. Which one's smaller, kilo or mega? Mega sounds bigger, doesn't it? Kilo is smaller. When converting from large units to small units, you multiply because you have lots of little things that make up the big thing. So 2.5, 1 megabyte is 1,024 kilobytes. What do I do with this? Times it by 1,024 and I get 2,560 kilobytes. Okay? So girls, when you're converting bytes, as in data storage, the number's not 1,000. It's not 1,000 difference between the mega, the giga, and the tera. It's 1,024. Okay? All right, last bit. In science, we often come across very large or very small units. So girls, we know that milli means 1,000th of. Milli is the small thing. So 1,000th of a second is a millisecond, so 1,000 milliseconds make a second. It goes milli, then micro is even smaller, and nano is even smaller. All right? So 1,000 microseconds makes a millisecond. So we've got millisecond, microsecond, nanosecond. This, there's a 1,000 times difference between each, and as you go down, it's 1,000 times smaller as you go down each time. Girls, all conversions are a difference of 1,000, except when you're going from millimeters to centimeters and centimeters to meters. Every single other conversion is going to be by thousands. You know, when you go from mils to liters to kiloliters, that change is 1,000 from each. When you go from milligrams to kilograms, milligrams to grams to kilograms to tons, each difference is 1,000. The only time you don't do 1,000 is when we're going millimeters to centimeters and centimeters to meters. That's the only time we don't. So every other difference, so as you go down, it's 1,000 times smaller as you go down each jump. Each of those units is 1,000 times smaller than the one before it. So 1,000 nanoseconds is a microsecond, 1,000 microseconds is a millisecond. Okay, let's convert. What is 4 nanoseconds in actual seconds? Write it using scientific notation. What's nano? 10 to the minus what? Girls, milli is 10 to the minus 3. So, micro is 10 to the minus 6. Nano is 10 to the minus 9. So 4 nanoseconds is 4 times 10 to the minus 9 seconds. The nano means 10 to the minus 9. 4 nanoseconds Nano means 10 to the minus 9, so I'm just replacing the nano with 10 to the minus 9. Micro means 10 to the minus 6, so it's 4 times 10 to the minus 6 seconds. Milli is 4 times 10 to the minus 3 seconds. Now, if you have to write 5 minutes in nanoseconds, what are you going to do? Don't worry about the nanoseconds. Can you write 5 minutes in seconds for me? 5 minutes is how many seconds? What are you times it by? So it's 300 seconds. Now you have to write that as something times 10 to the minus 9. So it's something times 10 to the minus 9 seconds. What are you going to do with it? At the moment, it's 3 times, what's 300 seconds? It's 3 times 10 squared seconds. But we want to write it times 10 to the minus 9. We know that you know how a nanosecond is 10 to the minus 9 of a second? That means 10 to the power of 9 nanoseconds makes 1 second. Because a nanosecond is 10 to the minus 9 of a second. Lots of nanoseconds make 1 second. So 10 to the power of 9 nanoseconds makes 1 second. So what are you going to... So if 1 second is 10 to the power of 9 nanoseconds... Sorry, I need white out. 300 seconds is 300 times 10 to the power of 9 nanoseconds. Sorry, can you see what I've written? 300 times 10 to the 9. Is that scientific notation? How do I change it? What should be there instead of the 300? Isn't that 3 times 10 squared times 10 to the 9? Yep. Yeah. 3 times 10 to the 11 nanoseconds. 0.052 microseconds means 0.052 times 10 to the minus 6 seconds. That's what it means. Now, the problem is we're supposed to be writing it in scientific notation. You know how I said 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters? You replace the kilo with 1,000 because that's what it means. Micro means 10 to the minus 6. 0.052 times 10 to the minus 6 seconds. How do I write that in scientific notation? So it's 5.2 times 10 to the minus 2 times 10 to the minus 6, which is 5.2 times 10 to the minus 8 seconds. Girls, change it to seconds. What do you times it by? How do you change it to minutes? Times 60, and to seconds, times it by 60. So what have we got? 2.3 times 60 is how many seconds? What do you got? 3,600 times 2.3. What does it equal?
8,200.
Exactly? Seconds. But that's seconds. Milliseconds are smaller than that. How many milliseconds in a second? All right, 1,000. So if you want milliseconds, it's like I'm saying I've got 1 meter. How many millimeters? 1,000 millimeters. So I need 1,000 more. I times this by 1,000 to get how many milliseconds. Does that make sense? It's like if you've got 1 liter. How many milliliters? 1,000 more. You've got that many seconds. How many milliseconds? You times that by 1,000. Girls, how do I write that in scientific notation?
8.280.
Yeah, times 10 to the power of 6. Milliseconds.